a suit and tie and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
And sometimes, just sometimes, your real good lawyer needs to change. Needs to change look, needs to change voice, needs to even change gender. And we're open to all that here on the program. We are very open-minded. So having given him the week off under sufferance, David Whiting is, I don't know, he's gone off somewhere sunny, I suppose, or at least I hope he has. The very wonderful Liberty Sanger has stepped back into this studio. You know her very well from the rap and other things besides. Principal lawyer at Morris Blackburn Lawyers, to offer you free legal advice today on anything affecting your workplace. 1300 222 774. The free legal advice continues today, so grab a spot on the line. I've got some lines free at the moment. 1300 222 774. Advice about COVID and the workplace, about working from home, about the vaccination and being vaccinated or not, and your workplace, what can be reasonably expected of you there. Sexual harassment in the workplace, bullying in the workplace. It affects all genders. 1300 222 774. You can ask any question, you can seek some advice, and this very credentialed lawyer will help you. Liberty Sanger, good morning.
Hi, Virginia.
Nice
Hello,
to see you again.
listeners. Nice to see you too. Lovely to be back.
Have you missed being here?
I have missed being here, but it has been a delight listening to the program from home. I've spent most of the last 12 months working from home, so I've had that experience. And I have to say, we've kept 774 on in the background.
I would hope so. Otherwise, we don't let you back. How have you gone working from home with two little kids?
Look, it's been terrific because, like many people, I have been able to balance my life a little better. So cutting out travel time and, dare I say, grooming at time has returned some time for me to do other things. But, I am very conscious that we're in a very lucky position. David has been able to take much more care of the kids, so particularly during the homeschooling period. I locked myself in the study and he took care of that. But also, I have been able to keep working from home. And I think one of the things that has really troubled me through this pandemic is learning about the people who have suffered the most, whose incomes were immediately cut off when we suffered this health crisis leading to an economic crisis. And there has been a gap that has emerged. So those of us who work from offices or in professional services have been able to keep working, and I'm in that group. But we've got to make sure that as we work our way through the impacts of COVID, that we are conscious of doing so fairly.
Job seekers just increased to $25 a week. Does that sound about right to you?
I heard that. Well, I'm happy for an increase. I think there's a long way to go. Look, again, there's a lot of things I think we learned through COVID, but one of them was the importance of taking care of one another and having a good baseline salary for people. We have had a health crisis that was in part caused by, it's not quite the question you've asked me, but in part caused by the casualisation of our workforce. And what we've, I think, learned, and we've got to really hang on to as we build our way out of this, is that it doesn't suit anybody to have people who have not got enough money, who have not got enough job security to be able to be safe and healthy, because if it affects one of us, it affects all of us.
Liberty Sanger is here, principal lawyer at Morris Blackburn Lawyers, and she's going to be advising you or answering any of your legal questions or advice that you're seeking in relation to the workplace. So workplace law today, you and your boss, or maybe if you are the boss. Anything in relation to COVID and workplaces, working from home, your rights around returning to work. What are your rights as an employer when it comes to getting people to come back to work and the like? Are you hearing much tension around that, Liberty?
There's a lot of questions, a lot of confusion, and people are looking for some clear direction. So unions want to know how to advise members. Employers want to know what they should be doing. So I think the best advice I can give everybody is let's go back to first principles. We all know that we have an obligation as employers to provide a safe place of work. So what do we know about how to keep our workplaces safe at the moment? We know that we've got to do things like regular cleaning. We should be taking temperature checks. We should be requiring masks if people can't physically distance. We should be trying to make sure people can physically distance. So we do all of those things. And we do that in a very calm way. And we know that if you're working in an office building, for example, in Melbourne at the moment, you can only have 50% of your staff there. So there are things that we know. And then come the questions about vaccinations. So can an employer compel someone to have a vaccination? And then a supplementary question, should an employer compel someone to have a vaccination? So we've seen some guidance from both Safe Work Australia and the Fair Work Ombudsman on this week, and also comments from the federal government. And it's clear that at the moment no one's going to be required. There will be no mandatory requirement to have a vaccination. When it comes to any individual employer, however, it will come down to whether it's lawful and a reasonable request. So each employer still needs to turn their mind to the question of whether it should be mandatory. But I think the clear preference, and the preference certainly our regulators are expressing, is at this stage it be voluntary.
Joy in Daylesford has a question exactly around this. Joy, good morning.
Yes, I was going to ask that. Thank you. I'm a teacher in a school, and because it's a private school, can my employer compel me to have that vaccination when I'm, can he do that? Because he could make you feel very uncomfortable if 99% of people have had it and you haven't.
Yeah, well, at the moment, no, it would be my answer. It would have to be, as I said, a lawful and reasonable direction. But I think there's a whole lot of questions that your employer would have to satisfy themselves of before they got to that point for your occupation. There are going to be people who have quite genuine and reasonable reasons for not having the vaccination. For example, pregnant women are likely to be reticent about undertaking the vaccination, and that's simply because there is never going to be any clinical evidence that's going to tell us that it's safe for pregnant women.
It's actually, in the Australian context, it's not advised right now.
Right, okay. So there are going to be groups where it's going to be reasonable to not have that vaccination. But to Joy's specific question, you may not be in one of those categories. My advice would be have a conversation, and I would be strongly encouraging your employer to approach that in a very respectful way, because people have all sorts of fears about returning to work. It's not really clear yet what the vaccination will protect people from. We're hoping that it stops the spread of COVID, but you may well still contract COVID even if vaccinated. We just don't know some of those things yet. But people have fears about that, and we need to talk about those fears and understand that what we're trying to do is minimise the risk of injury to ourselves and to others. If there's a way that you can undertake your job in a safe way that does not require you to have the vaccination, then that's the path that you would want your employer exploring.
Joy, can I ask you why you're resistant to taking the vaccine?
Because exactly like that lady who's in your interview,
Liberty, yes.
said, because we don't know the long-term side effects. It's all happened so suddenly and so quickly. And we just don't know what's going to happen
Joy, can I just say, speaking on behalf of all the medical authorities to whom I've spoken, and over a year now, and in particular the Chief Health Officer here and the Deputy Chief Health Officer, there are no dangers about that. It's not been rushed. It's been given to millions more people than you would actually ordinarily have a vaccine given to if, say, you were speaking about the annual flu shot. So there really isn't that concern, Joy.
Oh, well,
genuinely.
Thank you for allaying my fears, because that is my fear.
It's not been rushed. It's gone through everything that you would expect it to go through, but it's been compressed, whereas that trial time might be extended over the period of a year. They've done that trial and they've done all the required trials, but they've just done them more rapidly, but they've done them as they should have.
Mm-hmm. Because I've got really good health and I'm not exactly a young person, and I don't want my health compromised because of something that's been...
Sure. You don't, Joy, thanks for calling in, and I hope that answers your question. Can I just urge everyone to have a look at the piece that was written by our Nobel laureate, by Peter Doherty, to whom we spoke yesterday, and his most recent piece. One was actually published in the Herald Sun, I think it was yesterday, and he also has pieces that he continually writes for the Doherty. So go to the Doherty's website. So if you just look up the Doherty Institute in Melbourne and COVID-19 and have a look at their regular newsletter. He writes for their weekly newsletter, and he's written a piece about the absolute, how he's not concerned at all, the absolute safety around it. You may get just the generalised reaction that you get after, say, getting the flu shot, where you may get a sore arm. And as we understand it so far, and you may get, perhaps a feel a bit achy afterwards, which, you can get from the flu shot as well. But those concerns are not there. My goodness, we need a public media campaign around this,
We
Liberty.
do. What I was about to say to you, Joy, was that I'm absolutely getting the COVID vaccine without hesitation. And that's because I want to get it as an employer. I want to get it as a mother. I want to get it as a member of our society. I have every confidence in the vaccine.
Susan in Fitzroy, good morning.
Oh, good morning. My issue is potentially a work cover issue, so I'm not sure if that's something you can...
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm a nurse. I'm in my late 50s, and I work in 3 jobs.
Wow.
So one's part-time
When do you sleep?
position. Pardon?
When do you sleep?
Oh, no, I don't work I don't work more than 3 or 4 days a week.
Okay, good.
But one's a part-time position and the other 2 are casual.
Yes.
One of the casual positions is a community-based position where I'm in a car going into people's homes, but the other 2 positions are hospital-based.
Yep.
I'm currently at home with a back injury.
Yep.
I can barely move, and I'm just wondering where to start. It's probably work cover. I mean, I'm being told it's an injury, and it started. I noticed it at one of the workplaces, but it was probably from the day before at a previous one. So I'm just wondering, what to do.
And what is your job, Susan? Oh, you said you're a nurse.
I'm a nurse,
So
a registered nurse.
You're going into people's homes. And what are the other 2 jobs?
They're hospital-based, so
Right.
just on wards, looking after people, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't have any particular thoughts about which of the employers may have been responsible?
I do. I think it's probably the community one.
Yep. Well,
Because you've got so little control over a whole lot of factors.
yep. And have you had a particular diagnosis? Is it something that was caused by a specific incident, or is it something that was came on gradually?
I couldn't put it down to a specific,
Event?
event or the person's home, but
It sounds like it came on gradually then.
it came on over a day.
Over a day, okay.
Gradually, so I can put it down to that day.
Okay, and
But
you're
yes.
with one employer that day. Okay.
Yes,
Well, the
correct.
smart thing to do would be to put a claim in against that employer.
Right.
And so have you reported your injury to your employer?
Not at this stage.
Okay, so you've got to go and do that, and you need
Yep.
to enter it into the injury report book.
Right.
You should make sure that you've told your doctor about what happened on that day, so that your doctor
Yes.
has got a history in their notes about what happened.
Yeah.
And then when you fill out your claim form, you need to identify the kind of work you were doing over that day and how it was made worse.
Yeah.
Now, there are a few things for people in your situation where there are multiple employers. The first is, as you've identified correctly, identifying which employer is responsible. If there was a bit more ambiguity about that, I might be advising you to put claims in against all of them, particularly if it was something that came on gradually and was made worse by all of the work that you were doing. But on that, you might need to talk to your doctor. And in fact, I think given the instruction that you've just given me, I would suggest you start with your first employer, but if it turns out that the other 2 might also be responsible, you might need to look at putting a claim in against them later. But the other trick is that we need to make sure that if your claim is successful, which I very much hope that it is, when you're paid your weekly payments, that's the earnings from all of your employers are taken into account. But very, very important that you get that in as soon as you can, because there sounds like there might be some difficult issues that will need to be confronted. They're certainly not unusual. I have worked for workers who have been in your situation previously. You should be successful. And my advice actually to every worker is if you think an injury happened at work, it probably did, and you should be putting in that work cover claim. If it's denied, then get advice and we can take it further from there.
Susan, good luck with that. Thanks for calling in this morning, and I hope that was helpful. Jan is in Blackburn. What's going on, Jan?
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. So my husband works in a aged care. He's an accountant, so he's in a separate building from the residents, and he never really sees them. And he goes to the separate building, so it's like working in a corporate office, just normal corporate office, if you like. But then, nevertheless, he's employed by the aged care. With the COVID vaccine, his workplace strongly encouraging every staff to be vaccinated very soon. And I'm very happy for him to get it if he didn't have this neurological disorder recently. It's something that your own immune system attacks the nerves. And so he had that recently, and he can't get any flu vaccine because of the possible side effects. And I think his workplace checked it out with the health department, saying that it's safe, COVID vaccine is safe for somebody who had that disease. However, he feels a little bit nervous about getting that vaccine because it's such a new vaccine, and with the recent condition that he had, where there might be potential side effects or not. So he is willing to get it, but he wants to wait a little bit, like a few months. But it's almost, he feels that he doesn't have any choice but to get it, just because his workplace is really encouraging everybody to get it very soon. And so I'm just wondering what would be the best way to...
Well, let's deal with the legal position, but then we might come back to how he can allay his fears on the vaccine. But the legal position would be he should let his employer know that he has this concern. And at the moment, has he been working from home, or he's been working in the office for this period?
Except the lockdown?
Sorry, he's been at home, has he?
No, he's been going into the office except for lockdown.
Well, it may be possible for the short period that he needs to get the information he requires before deciding about the vaccine, that he can work from home, given the kind of work that he's got. And that would be something reasonable that the employer and he could work out. But ultimately, if the employer requires him to be in the office, he'll need to go back there. At this stage, it's not going to be mandated according to Safe Work Australia and the federal government. So at this stage, I don't think that any nursing home would require it. But he is working in an area where there is a lot of risk. And if there were going to be employers that might mandate it, it could be in nursing homes. I do hear your point about him being in another building, and I think that would be one of the considerations that would have to be taken into account. But do we want to deal with the issue about how to allay the fears on the vaccine?
I think rather than there's a number of people on text who are accusing me of bias because millions of people disagree, I'm being told, with this virus and vaccine. Don't know how you disagree with the vaccine, meaning you are afraid of the vaccine or you're worried about it. And thousands of experts apparently disagree with me. What I'll say is this, and it's said often, it was said this morning by others too, go and speak to your doctor. Go and speak to your GP. Don't make an amateur assessment about whether a condition you have is contraindicated in relation to getting the vaccine. There are very, very few conditions that are. Pregnancy is one that we've mentioned. But all I'll say again is that the testing processes that would ordinarily apply to the development of any vaccine have been applied to this one. And they have not been rushed. It's just that the steps that ordinarily you'd go through that maybe take some time in order to be approved by the regulatory authorities have not been delayed. They've just been approved as quickly as they possibly can. I might share to my social media the medical findings around that from the TGA, the Therapeutic Goods Administration, which approves all of our drugs here. But I guess I'm just feeling a little dismayed that we might have to go over and over and over this morning. I don't know if you can have an opinion about a vaccine if you haven't informed yourself with all the proper analyses that have been done by the most august and credentialed official medical channels. Even if your instinct tells you something different or tells you something different about the time frame in which they've been developed, you either have vaccines that are approved by official channels or you don't.
Look, this is the advice in a work cover context that I give all workers about conditions they have is go and talk to your doctor. and talk to them about what the likely progression
Yes.
of an injury, etc., might be. I have the same advice for everybody about this vaccine. There's a lot of people with opinions out there, but they're opinions. It's not data. It's not medical evidence. If you've got concerns, go and talk to someone who's able to interpret all of that for you and look at your particular situation and give you advice about what's best for you.
All right. Adam in Pascoe Vale, good morning to you.
Good morning. So one of the interesting conversations that I'd like to start up is that there's been so much work from home over last year. To what extent?
Adam,
excuse my dog.
No, it's not your dog. Adam, do you have a particular question or an issue you'd like us to help you with rather than starting conversation? Hello,
My
Adam.
My question is, how do employers cover up dismissal or termination of employment due to COVID-19 lockdown and absence from work?
So if a worker has been absent from work and the employer terminates them?
Yes.
Is that what happened to someone you know, Adam?
Yes.
Okay.
I might need
My wife.
So your wife has been terminated and she was told it was because she didn't go back to work?
She's been told that she's been absent from work too long.
So she was required to attend work?
She was. She was required to attend work, and she was performance managed and told that she was no longer required. A full-time employee of 22 years duration.
I wonder if we might actually take this one offline. I think this may be something we can handle a little bit later on. I can hear that there's sensitivities and Adam's being cautious about what he wants to speak about. That's understandable. So maybe we'll save that for another time. We've got you on hold there, Adam. My producer will have a word to you and we'll see what we can manage for you. Tom in the city, good morning. Hi, Tom. Go ahead.
Oh, hi there. How you going?
You're on the air, Tom. If you can pick up your phone, thank you. Oh, Tom.
Hello. Sorry. I didn't get a warning from the producers that I was.
You don't get a warning. You just go to air.
No, fair enough. Absolutely.
They're busy.
Okay, so to just very quickly explain my background.
Yes.
I was on salary before the pandemic started. When my employer started receiving JobKeeper, I went into an arrangement with them where I was working reduced hours so that they could pay the minimum JobKeeper payment, and that's been going right through with the 2 reductions up until now. So I just wanted to know when JobKeeper ends, in the hope that the business will still be going, what happens about me going back onto salary? Is it expected that I go straight back onto the rate that I was on?
Oh, that's a great question.
JobKeeper ends in March.
What sort of agreement did you? On what basis were you employed previously? So you had a contract, did you?
No, I was on a full-time contract. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so, did you agree to a change to your contract without any sort of restriction on when that would end?
So we all just received a letter. Well, there was a discussion with the employer, and everyone received a letter saying that going forward, you'll be paid. You'll work 24 hours a week at $1,500. Well, at whatever that was after tax. Oh, sorry, $1,500 before tax, and then $1,200, and then $1,000.
Yeah, I think what will happen is it's going to come down to what was intended at the time that alteration was made. And it could, if you're not a member of a union, you might want to get some advice. But if you are a member of a union, go back and talk to them, because I think that you're going to need some good negotiation with your employer about returning to where you were at. It's a little unclear in these situations about whether the arrangements that were entered into were permanent or temporary. But I think that the intent on your part, from listening to you, was that it be temporary. And so what we want to see is that...
It was just kind of no one knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So it was
Everyone was trying to do the right thing. So you need to get some advice ASAP before JobKeeper runs out, so you're in the best position that you can be to get your hours back.
Liberty, always good to see you. We hope we can have you back again soon.
That would be lovely. Lovely to talk to you and all the listeners.
Lovely to have you again. Liberty Sanger there, Principal Lawyer, and Maurice Blackburn Lawyers.